A warm welcome to Business Daily right here on Trust Television. I am Yusuf Akogu. Let's take the business top stories. Glad to have you back. Now we go to the stock market, and indeed to give you the highlights of the stock trading of yesterday. Because the Nigerian market has continued to, do so well. If you look at the index number that we are seeing, the first time again we are crossing 74,000 basis points. First time in the history of the Nigerian capital market. Yesterday it was 73, first time as well. Today 74, first time as well. The last trading day of the week. What could happen today? Probably we wait to see what will happen. 1.21% the market gained yesterday. If you look at the market volume, 760.929 million worth of equities were exchanged hands among investors yesterday. In terms of value, 13.02 billion naira, and the deals of 7,990 exchange hands among investors. Very good performance, you say, for the market, especially since the new government comes in. It seems that the policies of this government favor the Nigerian capital market better than the larger economy. Look at the top gainers. We have the like of IMG. IMG recorded a huge gain of 10% yesterday. The Transcorp also among the top gainers, 10% as well, to close at 8 naira and 47 kobo per share. Of course, Okumu Oil in the palm oil sector, 9.96% there, to close at 263 naira and 90 kobo per share. We look at the losing equities. We have John Hurt, one of the oldest stock equities, one of the oldest company quoted on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, down 10% there to close at 2 naira and 34 kobo per share. LLX also down 9.94%, 2 naira 90 kobo per share. It ended, of course, triple leg also on the losing side, 9.66% to close at 2 naira and 15 kobo per shares. Let's look at the activities table. We have a mortgage bank. A mortgage bank leading the charts today. Very, very surprising. 224 million volume of shares it traded yesterday. Not one of the bank that you see on the activities table on a regular basis. Access holdings down 65.8 million volume of shares. Of course, Transcorp Nigeria, another big bellwether equity on the exchange, 65.3 million volume of shares were traded yesterday. Let's look at the sectoral performance. The banking sector doing largely better than the rest, 1.41% in the banking sector. We go to the industrial sector, 0.01%. The marginal gain, of course, if we go down to the consumer goods, is down 0.15%. And of course, the oil and gas sector, so many uncertainty within that sector of the economy. A lot of people were actually expecting that with the coming up on stream of Port Harcourt refinery, there should be a respite for the oil and gas sector, but not yet. So 0.05% it went down on Thursday. And of course, the insurance sector, 0.61% gain as well. Let's look at The rest of Africa is all green today in Joburg, 0.69%. They are actually, trying to stay ahead of the Nigerian capital market, which is chasing their all share index there. If you look at it, 75,000 there compared to Nigeria 74. You know that the South African market is indeed under pressure from Nigeria. JSE in Ghana, 0.02%. And of course, in Nairobi is also positive, 0.63%. These are the highlights of the stock trading as it went down on Thursday across major continents, across major markets in Africa. We're going on a very quick break now. When we come back, we'll go into our discussion. Don't go away.
This is Africa Update on Trust TV. I am Ayuba. Thanks for joining.
Rest of Africa, stand and make sure that our people understand.
And the story of the OAU can be told and retold. It cannot be denied that it made a contribution to the process of decolonization of the continent in many ways.
Ethiopia is where it is today in no small part because of the tireless efforts of the African Union and the wisdom of its deeply held belief in the principle of African solution to African problems.
The bulk of African countries were under colonial rule in 1945. So they did not take part in the negotiations that established the Bretton Woods institutions.
But the African continent is not included in the South-South relations. And therefore, our objective is to ensure that the Africa Free Trade Agreement is actually implemented. And the BRICS countries, all of them are trading with Africa.
And we know that there are resources in Sudan, especially in Darfur. And that is why Darfur has been on the front burner for a long time.
So Cameroonians are anxious, Cameroonians are impatient, Cameroonians are like, oh, many of the guys are not talking today. You can read it all over the social media.
Egypt has officially declined to accept fleeing Palestinians for fear that the more Palestinians we accept across the border into Egypt, the more trouble there may be for the country in the nearest and farthest future.
Glad to have you back. It's the Business Daily right here on Trust Television. Now we go into our discussion, but before that, let's show you the graphics of the unemployment rates released by the National Bureau of Statistics yesterday, which indicates that the Nigeria unemployment rate increased by 0.01%, a marginal increase, you will say, if you compare to what we had in the third quarter. I mean, the second quarter of 2023, which was 4.2%, 4.1%. Now it has increased to 4.2%. If you look at the breakdown there, you see that the working age population in terms of employment, 8.4%, unemployment to population ratio of 7.1%, combined rate of unemployment, and of course the time-related underemployment, rather 15.5%. If you look at it down there, all youths not in employment, education, or training at all is actually made up of 13.8%. This is a huge number, you will say. But again, the figures from the NBS is indeed encouraging a marginal increase of just 0.1%. I think Nigeria shouldn't worry so much with regard to unemployment rate. Now we go into a major topic of discussion for today. We're looking at the Nigeria CNG initiative. So much has been said about that in the last couple of a month, especially since this government comes in. And of course, the subsidy was taken out. The alternative to that, how to get it working, has been a major concern to Nigerians and of course even the government itself. So I have the right person here in the studio to help us understand or lead us into what they have done so far in that regard. Engineer Michael Oluwagbemi is the Program Director, CEO, Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative. A pleasure to have you on Business Daily.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. So far, where are we with this initiative?
Thank you very much, and good morning once again to your viewers.
All right.
It's a pleasure to be back. I've been back here with several designations.
Absolutely.
And I think this time around, of course, I've been tasked to lead the team to manage this rollout of the presidential CNG initiative by Mr. President. And of course, we are coming to this with a deep sense of professionalism and nationalism with respect to helping Nigeria transition from the current dependence on expensive, dirtier, not as reliable, and definitely not as safe PMS diesel to a much more cheaper, safer, cleaner, and more reliable CNG. Where are we? First thing first, the president's speech was on July 31st. And in that speech, he just laid the foundation for our work. In the month of August, the president empaneled our team, of course, still working behind the scene to start the planning work. Because we needed to decide what does the CNG transition for Nigeria looks like. What does it entail? And we worked very assiduously and developed a plan that he could approve, such that by the first week of October, during the independence speech, he now got into the details of what we are going to be doing. That was based on detailed planning that went on for more than 8 weeks, that went through different levels of approval and design and what ifs. Because you know what they say, that if you fail to plan, then you've planned to fail. So we know that Nigeria has tried to do this twice before. Of course, the imperatives for doing it did not exist in previous climes, especially because the fuel subsidy regime was still in place. But now that the fuel subsidy regime had gone and that CNG was now selling for equivalent of 230 naira to 330 naira relative to petroleum, which was the PMS that was selling.
But is it available right now?
It's available. It's available across the country. But it's not as available as many places as we require if we want to meet the needs of all Nigerians. We have less than 5,000 vehicles right now on CNG. Our goal, the president has set for us, is 1 million vehicles by 2027. Right? So if we are going to meet the demands of 1 million vehicles, we need about 100 million cubic feet of gas a day or more. Right? And so the requirement, of course, also grows dramatically if we encourage the adoption. So where we are right now is that we have done very serious planning. The president also approved expedited procurement. He announced that in his October speech, and it has now been implemented by the Ministry of Finance. And now we are getting to the stage of actually taking delivery, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months, of some of the materials, specifically the CNG platforms. I speak about the buses and the tricycles. We are getting 11,500 of them, as well as the converter kits. The idea behind it is that while for CNG vehicles we can bring them in, there cannot be enough of them, right? We already have about 7 million commercial vehicles and another 10 million private vehicles in Nigeria. What we can do in the meantime, to create the CNG market, demand for the market, so that the infrastructure that you talk about, the gas supply, the compressors and processing stations, the LNG plants, CLNG plants and regasification plants, the pipelines, the refueling plants, the conversion workshops, for all of these things to be established by the private sector, they need to see and feel the market. So what we are doing is that our home mandate is specific. We now need to implement a program that does 3 things. 1, incentivize adoption. Allow and encourage people to adopt and to convert their vehicles from PMS diesel now to an hybrid platform. So that therefore you can take your vehicle in for less than 500,000 naira. It can now run not just on PMS or diesel, but it can also run on CNG at the same time. So what that does is that you are flexible. Anywhere you see CNG which is cheaper, you buy CNG. If it runs out and you're in somewhere where you don't have CNG, it goes back to running on PMS on diesel. Over time, you cut down your cost of fueling as an individual. It also saves you cost of maintenance because gas actually runs cleaner. You do your oil change far less times and all of that stuff. The second thing, our second mandate, is also to actually facilitate investment. So after we encourage and incentivize adoption, is now to facilitate investment into the sector. And to do so, we have been engaging with stakeholders. For example, on Tuesday this week actually, we had a stakeholder summit in Transcorp, where we actually engage with investors from across the world who want to invest. We estimate we need about 1 trillion naira of investment in the next 5 years in order to be able to achieve 1,000 conversion workshops and 1 million vehicles, 25,000 technician strength to do this conversion. Conversion makes sense, again, because you already have PMS vehicles, you already have diesel vehicles.
Absolutely.
All you need to do is to install the converter kits, to do some certification and inspection, and then you're running on CNG. Now, the last mandate we have is also to develop the regulatory framework for CNG conversion and the CNG implementation in the transport sector. We're already doing that. We launched last 2 weeks the Standard Organization of Nigeria working with us and working with its counterpart agency like NMPDRA that is focused on the hydrocarbon side. SON, of course, focused on the equipment. And you have various other agencies, including NADDC, the Nigerian Auto Design and Development Council, that regulates automobile conversion, automobile workshops and technicians, and 22 other agencies came together in order to expedite a regulatory framework for this sector, which will be out in the next 2 weeks. So again, you're seeing that we've done a lot of work in 60 days. In 60 days already since the president launched, we've finalized procurement already through the Ministry of Finance. We've moved forward with the conversion workshops, setting up partnerships across the country. We've doubled the number of conversion workshops. Absolutely.
I recall you were in the Northwest.
Yes, in the Northwest in Kaduna.
Last week or thereabout.
Yes.
In a Chikun local government, to be precise. Where
So we are across the country. So already partners are setting up workshops in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, in Lokoja, across the country already. They are setting up. So we've been able to double the number of workshops, conversion workshops in this country in 30 days. Double it in 30 days, and we're going to continue to double it every month. That is one part of it. But the other part of what we're doing is this regulatory stuff. And then, of course, now we've developed the incentives for people to adopt, and we'll be rolling that out in the next few weeks. So that's where we've been.
That's interesting. You are talking about incentives rather to your partners. Are you considering giving waivers to some of these companies that are actually coming in to partner with you?
We've already given it. So this is again one of the achievement and success stories that we've had in the last 60 days. So the Minister of Finance, upon our application and upon our gesture, on December 7th, released a circular that approved what they call the IDEC waiver, the import duty exemption certificate to the CNG sector, including EVs. So our program is not just CNG alone, by the way. We also have an electric vehicle component to the program, which we're partnering with the various partners across the world, including SC for all of the United Nations. So we've delivered that waiver. In addition to that, we are also granted VAT exemption at the BS of presidential approval to all CNG kits, CNG vehicles, CNG assembly part, knockdown parts. All of that were also communicated in the December 7 circular by the Honorable Coordinating Minister for the Economy. So again, 60 days of feverish work since October 1st speech of Mr. President and the October 7 setting up of the steering committee. I think we have very serious achievements on the board, and we continue to move speedily forward in order to ensure we implement the vision of Mr. President of Renewed Hope agenda to ensure that substantial transportation palliatives are delivered to the Nigerian people at the behest of the removal of the fuel subsidy to ensure that Nigerians are able to enjoy cheaper transformation, leveraging on Nigeria's gas resources.
Absolutely. Talking about transportation subsidies, we also understand that 50% subsidy has also been given to Nigerians that wish to travel this Christmas. But let's look at the agreement that was recently signed in Dubai on the sideline of COP28, where it was agreed that a company in Dubai will supply Nigeria with 100 CNG buses. How soon, or what are the details of this agreement, and how soon
it was not talking about 100 CNG buses or a Dubai company. I mean, maybe that crossed the wire a little bit. The agreement in Dubai and the announcement in Dubai actually was that Nigeria was acquiring 100 EV buses, and it's actually under this program as well. And those 100 EV buses are being acquired by a Nigerian company, not a Dubai company. Half of them will be assembled here in Abuja. They are setting up an assembly plant in the Idu Industrial Estate. The president has been very clear that he wants 100%, as much as possible, local content policy in this program. He believes that Nigerian companies can compete and can do their best in actually when it comes to the implementation of this program. So that company is already working on that. They're going to be setting up. They already.
Is it a local company?
It's a local company.
Or the company is a foreign company, coming to Nigeria to
it's 100% local company. They've been in fact, their showroom is in Wusetu here. If you want to visit brilliant transport technologies company, or something called possibly EVs. So you can visit their showroom in Wuse, and they're going to be setting up their factory in Idu. And that's where they are the ones that are going to be acquiring it through which we acquired
100 buses.
The 100 EV buses, yes, and it's going to be deployed. Now, what the president also did is that we are leveraging that. We are taking that 100 EVs even further, because the truth is, people ask, should we do CNG, should we do EVs? To me, all of the above strategy, right? Because you cannot have EVs if you don't have gas. At the end of it, it's about utilizing Nigeria. We're about, the president wants to utilize Nigeria's, gas resources.
Absolutely.
Most of our grid power today is from gas, and we should do more. We don't have enough grid power. So if we are going to be powering our EVs, we're going to be using gas too. So as far as we are concerned, EV or gas is all of the above strategy. And the reality is that Nigeria has to transition away from PMS and diesel. We will refine our oil, which we don't have much of, to be honest. We are a gas country with some oil. We take our gas, we use it to industrialize our country. We build countries like Brilliant's EVs, possibly EVs across Nigeria. Many companies like that can exist that will be manufacturing EVs, that will be manufacturing CNG buses. The CNG buses we are getting are also all going to be locally assembled. All the buses we are getting are going to be locally assembled, and the companies that are doing it are Nigerian companies. So what we are doing is that we use our gas.
They are being produced here.
Yes, they will all be assembled. They will all be assembled here. Most of them are coming in as completely knockdowns. They have factory set up. They were employing over 3,000 employees during this period, and we are setting up a system to make sure that it's not just that we buy it one time. We set up a financing system. This program will not just have an impact on the transportation sector in terms of the lives of the Nigerian people, or the energy sector in terms of the gas supply, but can also have an impact in terms of the auto sector, the automotive sector. And that's the reason why we are working very closely with NADDC. Companies that are supplying us are already Nigerian car manufacturers. These are not companies that are fly-by-night, foreign companies coming to supply CNG buses in Nigeria. No, we're encouraging local production. And at the end of the day, Nigeria will build a core competence in terms of building hybrid vehicles that we can now export to the rest of the world. That is what we need to do. We need to use our gas resource to industrialize our country. We take our crude oil, we refine them in all our refineries. Again, our work is to produce Nigeria. But then instead of using the crude oil, we export the crude oil now. We export the refined product, and then we keep our gas, and we use the gas to industrialize Nigeria. That is how Nigeria can begin to build jobs. You see that job data you showed there? Those 5.9% urban unemployment rate and a high underemployment, we can turn it around. Absolutely. You cannot have a massive population like Nigeria, and then you have too many people unemployed or underemployed. You want people to be always engaged, because what do they say? They say that an idle land is the devil's workshop. So our work here is to engage Nigerians in the job of manufacturing, in the job of exploration, in the job of production, in the job of processing, in the job of conversion. There's so much that Nigeria can achieve if we leverage our gas resources. We can, number one, substitute the imports. Already last quarter, it was the MBS came out and said we spent 1.9 trillion naira buying petroleum products. Thank goodness our refineries are going to be working very soon. We already see the signs of it in both the Dangote and the Port Harcourt refineries. Exactly. That's fine. But the point that we're making is that even to replace that import, we can use 1 million vehicles take 1 million out of the current 14 to 20 million vehicles in Nigeria. It reduces our demand for crude oil. It reduces our demand for and the pressure on our forex. Now, we will now take what we have, this crude oil, and now even export and do what they call export stimulation. And so there's so much that can be done. Job creation, export stimulation, managing inflation, keeping inflation down, because transportation is 16-17% of the CPI. And so if we're able to reduce the inflation of transportation such that if there's a crisis in the Middle East, if there's a crisis in Libya, if there's a crisis in Saudi Arabia, it does not affect the pump price in Nigeria. What concerns the man in Otako or the man in Jabi about the fighting between Palestine and Israel? It's not their business. They just want to fill their car and their car to move. And why not? When we start using our gas, it's going to be locally priced. It will be priced in our own naira. It will not be based on whether Israel or Palestine is fighting. We'll just get going.
That is indeed a very tall one. That's not going to be achieved in one day.
No, but we have to start. Rome was not built in one day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's quickly
But Rome was building.
Absolutely. Yes. I agree with that. Let's look at the cost of conversion now. You made mention of 500,000 naira to convert your vehicle, your PMS vehicle to CNG. That is huge.
Yeah, it is huge, but it pays off itself. So is
there a certain let's say if somebody is driving a Range Rover, is the same is he going to pay the same amount with someone that is using a Toyota?
No, every car, depending on the valve of the car, if it's a V6 or a V8 or a V12 or a 4 valve, will have different converter kits. and of course the capacity of the car and your desire for the range. So you might want to have a 75-liter cylinder so that you can have a longer range, and some people might be okay with a 50-liter cylinder or a 60-liter cylinder. So it depends on. So that's why you cannot give an exact number. It will range between 250 to, some people will say 600,000, some say 500,000. But the point is that regardless of the cost, for most people, they will make back that money in 4 months to 6 months, regardless of the cost. So I met a Uber driver who just converted in NIPCO down here in Abuja. And he said, look, when they removed the fuel subsidy, sometime before the fuel subsidy, I used to make 30,000 naira a day. Takes it to his family. That's how he feeds. He's a pastor and he's also a Uber driver. He said, that's how I feed my family. Now they remove fuel subsidy. He said, once they remove fuel subsidy, he will drive. And then after he finishes at the end of the day, he does not have fuel to go back to his house. Then he said he did research and found out about CNG. He went to NIPCO on the way to the airport, converted his car. In a week, he's now saving 80,000 naira. He said 80,000 naira plus a lot of suya. He said he now buys suya and drinks, and he doesn't even keep account of that one.
Absolutely.
Now he has 80,000 naira from 30 when there was subsidy there. Now there's no subsidy, and he's now keeping, but using CNG, he's able to take 80,000 naira a week. 80,000 naira a week, multiply it by 4. That gives you 320,000 naira.
Absolutely.
He converted, his cost of conversion was about 400,000. In a month and a half, he had already made it back. And then after that, it's his car.
That's interesting there. I mean, it looks like the CNG is indeed the future for Nigeria.
It is.
Absolutely. I must thank you, Program Director, Chief Executive Officer, Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, PCNGI, Engineer Michael Oluwagbemi. I must thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to come here to just
all right. So
explain.
Continue to get all the, the needed feedback from you as well on this station.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
All right. With that is a wrap on the show for the week. We'll be back on Monday. Compliment of the season to all our Christians, brothers and sisters. I'm Yusuf Akogu.